Hi, welcome back. Angela here at So Bright Alpine Quilting. This afternoon we've come back to talk to you about free motion doodles. I was going to have a free motion doodles class at Craft Alive in Townsville. You probably can't see that very well. In two parts. So one part of the class is the free motion quilting with panels, and the other part is a free motion quilting doodles sampler. So the little whale here was the one that we talked about yesterday, and I showed you the free motion quilting we were doing on the sea turtle panel, which is also part of that set. And this morning we were talking about machine applique. So you can see that I've just done a few more. I've ironed all the pieces onto the background and just stitched around a few more of the shapes just to show you what that will look like. And keep working on that one. So free motion doodles. This is the sampler quilt. It's a mini quilt. It's a modified version of another class that I do called Free Motion Doodles. Because at Craft Alive we would have only had an hour and a half to 2 hours to do a class, we needed to achieve something quickly. So I, instead of using a walking foot and ruling up a flat quarter like this one, we're using the panel instead to quicken the process up a little bit. So with the panel we can, it gives us a focal point to quilt in, which we can achieve a near finished sample in a couple of hours. So just to give you a background on free motion quilting, free motion quilting is the process of sewing the 3 layers of your quilt together, and it is you in charge of the stitch length. So by dropping the feed dogs in our machine, that puts you in charge of the stitch length. So you've got to push the fabric around to create the designs. It's not something that comes naturally, it's something that we need to practice and practice and practice and practice. I'm certainly not an expert, but I do love doing it. And so I've devised this pattern to help you with your free motion quilting. So the first thing that we do is, before we do anything, is we warm up. And to warm up, we have a 2-step process. We draw our design on paper first, which helps to create muscle memory. And I'll just show you quickly how that goes. So normally, when we're doing it on the fabric, we would take a little circle template and draw a circle just to give us a guide of where we're going to go. And so to get us in the groove, we start with some horizontal lines, some vertical lines, and we're just going to go up and down within that circle. You can have points, you can have round, you can have square. It just depends on how it feels when you get to the machine. So all we're doing now is creating some muscle memory. We're not concentrating on making sure that every line is perfectly straight or the same distance away from each other. We're just warming up. And so then we're going to move around the other side and we're going to do some horizontal lines. And so this can also be a bit of a challenge when you're quilting, changing direction. So this gives us something to warm up with and to help us get into that groove for quilting. So once we've done some horizontal lines, we're going to go around in a circle 3 times to outline that shape. And then we're going to start doing a rocking C shape. So we're just doing a round shape that looks like a C or a backwards C, and it's one of the versatile curves that we will be doing as we quilt. Little one there. And then we're going to outline it because everything looks good outlined. It also helps you fill in space. And once we move to the machine, you can do this on a quilt sandwich, or you can do it on 2 layers of felt. Sometimes it's you don't always have scrap pieces of fabric laying around, so it's easy to just grab 2 pieces of felt, and we will draw our circle on there. Because it's a sample, it doesn't really matter if we use a Sharpie. We'll need to do something as a warm-up. So we go to the machine and we do our warm-up on the machine once we have our muscle memory. So in my machine I have some 50 weight variegated thread in the top and bottom. I've got a quilting number 14 needle on and my free motion foot, and I have dropped the feed dogs on my machine. Oops, that's not going to stay. So the first thing we do is we need to bring the bobbin thread up. So we tap, bring that bobbin thread up, give that a tug, hang on to those 2 threads and stitch up and down in a couple of different spots just to anchor those threads, then we can snip them off. And then we're just going to start as we did before with our drawing. We're going to do some vertical lines across the circle. So at this point, you're not trying to create perfect stitches. All you're doing is just getting used to the speed of the machine and the movement of your hands, how fast you have to move your hands as to how fast you're moving the foot control. So the slower you move your hands, will determine the size of the stitches. So slow hands on fast speed will get small stitches, fast hands will get bigger stitches. So we're just going to continue to fill in the circle, looking at how our stitches are forming, and seeing if we need to go faster, go slower. And then we're going to come around the top. Hi, Debbie. And we're going to do horizontal lines, the same thing. Unfortunately, this table is a bit bouncy, sorry. Just slow down a bit. Had to bring my machine from home because I've got a thread stuck in the other one and I can't get it out. It'll have to go to the doctor tomorrow. Okay, so once we've gone horizontal, we're just going to follow that shape of the circle around. Just getting used to pushing the fabric around. Doesn't need to be exactly on top of it, the previous line. Create a little bit of a sketchy look. And now we're going to start doing the C shapes. Hi, April. Yeah, I really like warming up this way too. So we need to go a little bit faster when we're doing our loops, our C's. Stop and adjust your hands as you need to. The good thing about using felt for your warm-up too is that you generally don't need gloves or a hoop, is because the fabric is a little bit rough. You can grip it quite easily. A little one there, and now we're going to outline. And as I said, we're not looking for perfection. We're just trying to get into the groove so that when we get to our project, that our stitches are forming nicely. And there we go. So we stitch up and down in one spot just to anchor those threads, raise the needle, pull the work out and snip our threads off. And have a look how we went. So, yeah, a couple of places were a bit wonky, but as I said, it's just a warm-up. We have a look at the bottom, make sure our thread tension is okay, which this one looks really good. And then we can think about moving to our sampler. So to prepare our sampler, we need a quilt sandwich. So we have our top, we have some fusible wadding, and we have a plain muslin on the background. And what I've done to prepare it is I've put my walking foot on and just a black thread in the top and the bottom, and I've sewn around the outside of the square, and then still leaving the walking foot on, I've come through and I've stitched around the circles, and in exactly the same manner as my finger is going now. So you can use the walking foot to sew curves, and sometimes the walking foot is all you really need. But if you like to do more intricate patterns, more curvy patterns, then free motion is the way to go. So once you've done all of those, then we can now start looking at what we're going to put in these designs. So if you have a look at what I've done here, we've got a combination of things. We've got some straight lines with a little bit of interest detail here that I call like a bark. And then we have, in this one, we have a continuous swirl, which is a very popular way to fill. Sorry, can I ask if the blue circle's part of the fabric? Yes, the circles are part of the fabric. It is a panel. They're actually black, but that's okay. And in this one here, we've got one of my favourite filler patterns, which is like a continuous teardrop. So this is what's called a 3-step pattern, because when we look at it, we go 1 loop, 2 loops, 3 loops, and then we move on. And we do 1 loop, 2 loop, 3 loops. So this also is an important part of the process, is the drawing out of them, as I was mentioning before. So as you can see, we've got lots of different designs on here. We've got some stylized feathers, we've got some watery waves, we've got some snail here, we've got some swirly flowers. This design here is called, a lot of people call it cups, because this one here you can actually do with your walking foot as well. This is one of the few patterns that I would draw onto the fabric before I quilt it, even if I'm doing it free motion, because it's nice to be able to get that continuous curve. So you're actually stitching from one side to the other and then coming back again. And I'll draw that out for you as well. Here we have a stylized feather with some straight line fill-in. This one here is another stylized palm leaf. We've got some continuous wavy curves here, which is also a good one for borders. We've got some seeds, like peas in a pod one here. That's also another good 3-step one. This one here, it's hard to see what this one is because the other half of it is underneath, but this is like a ribbon candy. Now you can draw that out. We've got clamshells, some pebbles on a vine here, some little stylized butterflies, good old pebbles, and another version of the ribbon candy here. And as I said, I like to draw everything out before I stitch it. So I would prepare some circles on paper and refer to the pattern. So in the pattern you get the Free Motion Doodles warm-up exercise, so that takes you step by step as to which way you stitch this thing. And then you also have 2 pages of different designs. Some of them I haven't used on there, so you can basically choose whatever design you like. So in the class we would draw out each one of these before we try and stitch it. So we might start with a swirl. So this continuous swirl here, you can start wherever you like. You can start on the side, you can start in the center and then fill it in. But basically what you're doing is you're going to be drawing what you're going to be stitching. So trying to give muscle memory and remembering in your brain. You can also just draw it with your finger on the fabric, but I find it's helpful to draw, and then you can work out which way you're going to go for the next row. And you know, it doesn't have to be right on top of each other. There are no quilt police. You can do whatever you like. Who's going to tell you that it's not right? And so then when we get to this side, we come back again, and so on, to fill up that circle. And then we would just keep filling that circle up, and then we would go to the machine and we would stitch that one out. So I've sort of, on the pages, started out something reasonably simple and then moving on to the more complicated ones. So if you follow those through, you should be fine. Pebbles are a great filler, and one that I use quite a lot. They can be a bit intensive because you are going around the circle a couple of times. So you go around the circle and then you come off the circle, go around the circle. Sometimes you need to go around twice and then come off. So you're looking to keep all your pebbles connected in some way. If you get stuck into a corner, you can just do some tiny little ones. Pebbles can be large or small, so you can do really big ones. They can be round or they can be whatever shape you want. As we know, pebbles are not always round anyway, so you can make them whatever shape you like. But drawing them out helps you to map out where you're going to go on your quilted piece. So another popular round one is the 3 steps teardrop shape. So it's 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. And again, these can be as large as small as you like. Sometimes you want to do big ones, sometimes you might want to do small ones. But then each time, depending on which way you go first, because it's 3 steps, if you go to the left first, your last petal is going to be on the left. If you go to the right first, your last petal is going to be on the right. And you can modify the shape. So you could put a little swirl in there and then echo that. You can keep them all quite round if you do that. You can keep them round and then just keep bouncing off of one another and creating different designs. And as I said, if you go to the left first, you'll end up on the left. If you go to the right first, you'll end up on the right. So that's a really good one. Another, the ribbon candy, which I had on the outside there. So with the ribbon candy, you are creating a loop and then coming back down to that loop. But then on the second time, you are bouncing off it and creating like a bit of a heart sometimes. Oh, it's got a bit wonky there. And with the open side one, which I like, it's more like a fishbone, this one. So this one I call fishbone. And again, it doesn't really matter whether you do them starting from the left-hand side or the right-hand side. It just depends whether you're left-handed, right-handed, how your brain works. So we'll stitch out a couple of those now so that you can see them being stitched. How have we gone here? What is Esther? Can I have 2 of those free motion quilting panels? Yep, and a pair of Fisker scissors. Yes, of course. I will put that on your list and I'll give you a call tomorrow and we can go through it all. Okay, so doesn't matter where you start, just start anywhere. So as before, we are going to start by bringing up the bobbin thread. and locking those stitches in place and trimming off the tail, making sure that we have our foot down and our needle down as well. Sorry, just looking for my... Now this time I will find my hoop, the purple hoop. Nope. I'll put gloves on today. I just find it, either with gloves or the little quilting hoop, just help you move the fabric around a little bit smoother. So we'll start off with one of those swirl chains. Get the speed worked out. Then we're going to come back this way. So then I would continue back around to the other side to fill in the rest of that circle. While we're here, we will do, what did we draw next? I might show you one that I didn't draw, which was the barky looking one. So to do the bark, just have a wavy line and echo that. And then where you've created your bumps, you can put your little knots in. Come up and do another echo or two. And then put a bump in. Travel back over to the other side, and then we'll come down and do a knot here. And then we'll echo again, and another knot here. Knot, some echoes, a knot, and a knot. And an echo. So then to move to the next section, we'll probably have to come off and go back in again. But another one of my favourite ones is a feather, so I'll just do a nice feather for you. And I always find the feathers are easier if you have drawn them first. So we'll just come back to a piece of paper, Steve. You can stay there. So with your feathers, you might find it useful to start with if you draw a guideline. So you might want to draw a guideline on your fabric. So you would just, oh, I can't see that. Just draw a guideline on your fabric. And then you're going to just create a feather on either side of that. And now by a feather, I tend to do more stylized feathers. So I would just do a loop and come up, and I don't always follow exactly on the line. Sometimes I might do them loose like this, and then when you get to the other side you have to come back this way. So that creates a bit of a challenge sometimes, trying to do the same pattern backwards and keeping them of similar on both sides. The other way is draw yourself a guideline, and then you can do both sides at once. So this way you're creating both sides of the feather and you don't have to go backwards. So you can work out which one you like to do better. I like to do that one where I don't have to go backwards. And then you could come around and echo these petals. So you could stitch down into the sides and come around and echo. And then if you really want your feather to stand out, you can do a background filler in here. And this is where a good one would be to do something really wiggly, like your ribbon filler, a really tight ribbon candy, because that will flatten down this section of the quilt and make the feathers pop up. Or another good one is your pebbles are really good ones to be up against a feather. Or alternatively you can do, like I did in one of the other ones, more straight lines and bounce them off of the echo that you did. And they can be quite zigzaggy or they can be rounded edges. Sometimes it just happens and you just have to go with it. So we'll do one of that second feather because that's the nicest. I find that the easiest one to do. So once again, bring up the bobbin thread, trim that off. And gloves. Echo. Do a little swirl here. Echo that. And then we can try some little pebbles. Okay, so that is a feather and pebbles. So if I was doing that on a quilt, I would probably change the thread colour. If I wanted the feather to really pop up, depending on the space you know, obviously depending on the space as to what the size of the feather that you would do. So if you're doing a larger feather in the variegated thread on a black background, then I would probably change to black thread to do the pebble, so that it would give a greater contrast between the two designs and give you more texture. I hope that makes sense. So then we would just continue working through our designs that we have in the pattern and drawing them out first, as I said, and stitching them out, changing thread colours as often as you like. In the sample you see I used quite a few different threads. Some of them are cotton threads, some of them are embroidery threads, more shiny, rayon-y polyester threads, just to help you, you know, work with different fabrics and different threads, sorry. So if there's enough interest, because we can't do live in-person classes at the moment, I could record a version of this class and have it available in our private Facebook group. So if you are interested, send me a message and we can get a kit out to you and we can sew along together in the private Facebook group. So I hope you've enjoyed these little segments that we've put out for you from the last 3 days, and we'll keep doing them from time to time. In between the next now and the next great international craft show, which is at the middle of September, we'll just keep working on some new samples for you. Oh, before I forget, if you're looking for good resources for free motion quilting, this is a great one. So this is a perpetual calendar from Leah Day, and so it has 365 different quilt patterns in it. You could stitch out one each day. Leah actually did a pattern called 365 Quilting Designs, where she did a video blog every day with a different design, and that was very popular. So today was August the 8th. Where's that gone? So this is the design of the day today. So Leah Days has some very good resources. So we have the calendars in stock if you're interested in those. Also, Angela Walters has some good resources. Robbie Joy Ecklow. There's lots of people that do free motion quilting, apart from me, of course. So yeah, if you want to learn more about free motion quilting, get in touch. Oh, the other one that we have that we shared this morning, Steve, the sketchy quilt behind you. Yeah. We also do this one as a class. This is a Monica Poole pattern. This is called Sketchy Flowers Cushion. So this is also a different way to do a free motion quilting sampler. So similar things to what we did here with our horizontal and vertical lines. You got round shapes, pointy shapes, and it's just a great quick little sampler to do as well. The main thing is practice, practice, practice. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.